Ethan Parker arrived at the cafe 15 minutes earlier than the time written in the message. He believed that being early showed respect, especially for something as uncertain as a blind date. The small cafe sat on a quiet corner of the street, its warm yellow lights glowing softly through the windows. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air. He chose a small table near the window where he could see the entrance. The evening outside was cold, and people hurried past the glass doors wearing coats and scarves. Ethan adjusted the sleeves of his jacket and checked his phone again. The message from the dating app was still there. Her name is Olivia. She'll be wearing a blue coat. She's a little shy but very kind. Ethan took a slow breath and tried to relax. Blind dates were never easy, but his best friend had convinced him to try again. After months of focusing only on work, a waitress approached his table with a friendly smile. "Would you like to order something while you wait?" She asked. "Just a coffee for now," Ethan replied politely as the minutes passed. Ethan watched the door carefully. Every time it opened, he looked up, expecting to see a woman in a blue coat walking toward him. But each time it was someone else. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Ethan stirred his coffee absent-mindedly while checking the time again. Maybe she was stuck in traffic. He thought the city streets could be unpredictable in the evening. At the 20-minute mark, his confidence began to fade. He sighed quietly and leaned back in his chair. Being stood up wasn't something new in the world of online dating, but it still felt awkward sitting alone at a table meant for two. Another 5 minutes passed. Ethan finally reached for his phone, thinking about sending a message to ask if everything was okay. Before he could type anything, the cafe door slowly opened with a soft ding from the bell above it. He looked up automatically, but instead of a woman in a blue coat, a small figure stepped inside. It was a little girl. She looked no older than 6. Her dark hair was tied into 2 slightly messy ponytails, and she wore a pink jacket that looked a little too big for her. A small backpack hung from her shoulders. For a moment, Ethan assumed she had entered with a parent, but no one followed her. The girl paused just inside the door and scanned the cafe, as if searching for someone. Then her eyes landed on Ethan. To his surprise, she began walking straight toward his table. Ethan sat up confused. The girl stopped beside him and looked up with wide, curious eyes. She seemed calm, not scared, as if she had come exactly where she meant to go. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then the little girl adjusted the strap of her backpack and said softly, "My mommy, sorry she's late." Ethan blinked in surprise. The girl continued speaking with simple confidence. "She told me to come first and wait with you." The cafe suddenly felt very quiet around them. As Ethan tried to understand what was happening, Ethan stared at the little girl for a moment. Unsure if he had heard her correctly, the cafe noise continued around them. Cups clinking, quiet conversations, the soft sound of the coffee machine. But Ethan's attention was completely focused on the child. "Standing beside his table, your mommy?" he asked gently. The girl nodded with complete confidence. "Yes," she said. "She told me to come find you." "Your name is Ethan, right?" Ethan felt even more confused. Slowly he nodded. "Yes, that's my name." The girl smiled as if she had just confirmed something very important. "I knew it," she said happily. "Mommy said you would be sitting by the window." Ethan looked around the cafe again, expecting a worried mother to suddenly rush in and explain everything. But the door remained closed, and no one seemed to be looking for the little girl. He pulled the chair across from him out slightly. "Well, you can sit here while we wait for your mom," he said kindly. The girl climbed onto the chair and placed her small backpack on the table. Her legs swung back and forth under the seat. As she looked around the cafe with curiosity, "I'm Lily," she announced proudly. "Nice to meet you, Lily." Ethan replied. A waitress walked over, clearly surprised to see Ethan now sitting with a child. "Everything okay here?" she asked carefully. "Yes," Ethan said politely. "Could we get a hot chocolate for her?" Lily's eyes lit up immediately. "With marshmallows?" she asked. Hopefully, the waitress smiled. Of course, as the waitress left, Lily leaned forward on the table. "Mommy said you're very nice," she said casually. Ethan chuckled softly. "I hope that's true, so you're the blind date," Lily added matter-of-factly. Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. "Yes, I guess I am." The hot chocolate arrived a few minutes later, and Lily carefully wrapped both hands around the warm mug. She blew on the drink the way adults do, trying to look responsible. For a while, the two of them talked. Lily explained that her mother had been very excited about meeting Ethan. She said her mom had smiled a lot that morning and even asked Lily to help pick the blue coat she planned to wear. But as time passed, something started to feel strange. 20 minutes turned into 30. Lily occasionally glanced toward the cafe door, her cheerful expression slowly fading. She promised she'd come, Lily said quietly. After a while, Ethan checked the door again. Still nothing. He tried to stay calm so the girl wouldn't worry. Maybe she's stuck somewhere, he suggested gently. Lily nodded, but looked down at her mug. Ethan noticed how tightly she held the cup, as if the warmth comforted her. After another few minutes, he leaned forward slightly. Lily, he said softly, do you have your mom's phone number? Instead of answering, Lily reached for her backpack. She opened the front pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. My mommy told me to give you this if she was late. She explained. Ethan felt a sudden knot of concern in his stomach. He slowly took the folded note from her tiny hand. For a moment, he simply stared at it before carefully opening it. Ethan looked at the small folded note in his hand. The paper was slightly wrinkled, as if it had been written quickly and folded in a hurry. Lily watched him quietly from across the table, her big eyes full of trust. Mommy said it's important, she whispered. Ethan nodded and slowly unfolded the paper. The handwriting was neat but shaky, as if the person writing it had been nervous. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I truly wanted to meet you tonight, but something happened this afternoon, and I'm writing this from the hospital waiting room. I had a small accident while driving home from work. I'm okay, but the doctors need to keep me here for a while. Ethan's heart tightened as he continued reading. I didn't have time to cancel the date properly, and Lily was already excited about meeting you. I know this might sound strange, but I trusted that if she found you, you would be kind enough not to leave her alone. He glanced up at Lily for a moment. She was quietly stirring the melting marshmallows in her hot chocolate. Ethan continued reading. If you're reading this, thank you for staying with her. Lily is the most important person in my life. I promise I never meant to put you in such an awkward situation. The hospital is only a few blocks away. Street Mary's if it's not too much trouble. Could you please bring her here? I would be incredibly grateful. Olivia. Ethan lowered the note slowly. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything. Lily tilted her head. What does it say? She asked softly. Ethan gave her a gentle smile. Your mom is okay, he said, first making sure to reassure her. But she's at the hospital right now. Lily's eyes widened slightly. The hospital. She had a little accident earlier today, Ethan explained carefully. But she asked if I could bring you to see her. Lily didn't look scared. Instead, she looked relieved. I knew she wouldn't forget, she said quietly. Ethan felt something warm and unexpected in his chest. This evening had started as a simple blind date, something he wasn't even sure he wanted to attend now. He was sitting across from a little girl who had trusted a stranger, because her mother believed he would be kind. Ethan folded the note again and placed it carefully in his pocket. Well, he said, standing up, I think we should go see your mom. Lily immediately hopped off the chair and grabbed her backpack. Okay, she said. Her energy returning, Ethan paid the bill quickly at the counter, while Lily waited beside him, humming quietly to herself. A few minutes later, they stepped outside into the cold evening air. The hospital lights glowed in the distance. Down the street, Ethan looked down at Lily, who confidently slipped her small hand into his. Let's go find your mom, he said gently. Together, they began walking toward the hospital. Two strangers brought together by a blind date. That had turned into something far more unexpected. Ethan Parker arrived at the cafe 15 minutes earlier than the time written in the message. He believed that being early showed respect, especially for something as uncertain as a blind date. The small cafe sat on a quiet corner of the street, its warm yellow lights glowing softly through the windows. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air. He chose a small table near the window where he could see the entrance. Every time it opened, he looked up,